Welcome to the GCN Tech Clinic, where we aim to answer your bike tech, maintenance and cycling related questions. Alex is away this week and I'm joined by Adam from GMBN Tech. So without further ado, let's get on with today's questions.
Let's go.
First question is from Crikey Bikey. I'm upgrading from stock drop bars on my gravel bike and I'm trying to decide between round or aero. Do aero-shaped drop bars really make a difference? I mainly use my bike for commuting, 15 kilometres to work on roads. So I'm interested in speed and I'd like to do this faster. I also do some mild off-roading through forests, so I'm interested in comfort. Is it worth spending 3 times more the price for carbon over alloy as well? What do you reckon, Adam?
I reckon carbon, yeah, good shout. For a start, it's the one upgrade I've made to a bike that has been noticeable straight away. Just infinitely more compliant, I think, and then more direct with the steering as well. Just the inputs seem much more quicker. In terms of round or aero, again, it's going to be more compliant with that round shape, and then the aero one. I guess you're the aero expert, so.
Well, if you are chasing pure performance, then it is going to make some difference, and as the leading edge of the bike, it makes a big difference there. Yeah, rule of thumb, 5 watts or so at sort of 40 odd K an hour.
Yeah.
The one thing I would say though is you're saying you're using your bike for commuting 15 kilometres. I would go round bar because it's so much more practical for attaching things such as lights, a bell or a bar bag or whatever. There's just a round bar has added practicality. And so I'd probably go with that. I think in terms of off-roading, the speeds are generally lower as well, so the aero thing becomes, although still important, less important.
Yeah. And then if you are going carbon and you are putting stuff on your bar, maybe just put a little bit of tape under what you strap. Yeah,
that's a good point. Hope that helps. Next question. Do you want to read this one?
Yeah. So at Optimised.
Yeah.
I broke a bladed spoke on my Dura Ace 7800 rear wheel on a bike that's only used casually at this point. An identical spoke is probably a bit difficult to find. I can't find the OEM one, but a SRAM could be close. Is it time to fully relace the wheel with a fresh set of matching spokes? I'm wondering if the others may be vulnerable at their age. I think 7800 Dura Ace is a few generations ago now.
Yeah, Adam is... for those of you who don't know, is an incredibly experienced bike mechanic who will have repaired wheels and come up against this kind of thing. So what are you thinking?
So I think, wondering about sort of the vulnerability of other spokes, it's just worth considering like lifetime fatigue in that wheel as well. So 7800, when was that a thing? Are you looking at least 10 years ago for that? So I think, maybe completely relacing the wheel is a good shout. There are going to be places that have those OEM spokes, as difficult as they are to get hold of. And then, failing that, I'd potentially be looking at a new wheel set.
Yeah. I mean, it does get to that point, doesn't it? Whereas, the amount of time and effort that it's going to be to replace all of those spokes. Yeah. Because you are, I think, going to want to replace all of them, because if they're all pretty old and you're just replacing one, and in particular, if you're replacing one with actually a different spoke, the tension, it's going to be difficult to make that the same, and then the level of fatigue in those other spokes is probably going to go out of true again at some other point. It feels like a bodge.
Yeah, I think you'll be chasing
doing that.
So normally we said you place one spoke in a wheel, fine. If you get to sort of 3 or 4, then you want to do the entire wheel. But like we're saying, just because of the age of it, maybe
there are wheels that wheel technology has trickled down as all bike technology. So for not a huge amount of money, you'd be able to pick up a replacement set of wheels.
Rim brake wheels as well now.
Yeah. Well, there's also a load of incredible used rim brake wheels available.
100%.
That people no longer want.
Yeah.
So you can get a bargain. Yeah, I think that's becoming more hassle than it's worth at this point. Next one is from Corbyn's Bum. Okay. Who says, I recently built up a very orange gravel bike with GRXDI2. It's called Alex because, as far as my partner knows, it's been constructed with spare parts that have been laying around.
Very good.
Like my Hunt carbon gravel wheel set and DI2 group set. Oh, and the 4i power meter. But the question is
Done well there.
About chain waxing. My chains are coming out and looking dull, almost dirty looking. Is this a result of waxing, or has my wax become contaminated? It doesn't seem to make any difference to performance. The wax looks milky in the pot, like it's new. Any ideas? Should I throw out the wax, start again, or just put it up until I've used most of it? Thanks in advance. So the long and short is that if your chain does look slightly dull and dirty looking, if you're using a wax that's got additives in like that, it's perfectly normal. And as you diagnose that it could be some contaminants in your wax pot, yeah, that could also be the case if you're using a wax that doesn't have additives. Again, that's not something I'd be totally worried about. And so, yeah, I would crack on. I think the fact that you're waxing, and just make sure you're properly cleaning your chains before you re-wax them if you don't want to contaminate your wax pot.
Yeah. So especially being gravel bike as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're going to pick up all sorts of things on that, potentially.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Next question.
Next question from Shemenda. Yep, I'm not going to butcher your name.
Shemenda Sakthivel.
There we go. So when I'm riding my full sus with road tyres on the road, am I better off pumping the tyres to max PSI since the suspension takes care of vibration losses and the high pressure reduces rolling resistance?
Oh, right. So as an off-roader,
yep.
I've got my own ideas about this, but I want to know what you're thinking.
So I see what you're trying to do there. Obviously, the bike will have sort of an inbuilt compliance, I guess, is what you're getting at, and then you're trying to overcome that. I would still run a slightly lower tyre pressure. I wouldn't pump them up to the max on that. Just, you're going to stop the tyre essentially deforming?
Yeah.
Around ground-bound objects. So the sort of theories you've proven and Alex have with sort of rolling resistance at Silverstone and things like that is, the sensibly lower your tyre pressure is, the more it will move around that sort of object instead of just like hitting it and bouncing off of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's, you're going to get, your bike will be faster if you're running the optimum tyre pressure for the surface. Yep. And that's to do with how the tyre behaves and mechanical losses and within the tyre of the sort of deformation and reformation of the tyre structure. And the technical word, hysteresis losses. But if you're going to optimise rolling resistance, you want to optimise the pressure.
So there are some really good tyre pressure calculators out now as well. So jump on one of those. With that, you get an option in the calculator to choose what surface you're riding on. So at that point, if you're on the road and there's not an option for it, just choose like the hardest packed gravel you can. I think that sort of get you in the right ballpark for it. Yep. And then just go from there, because then you've got a baseline to play around with.
Yeah, the Silka one is really good. Yep. Vittoria have got one now as well. It's good. Check one of those. And don't just pump your tyres up to maximum pressure. No. The other important thing as well that we haven't even mentioned, we were talking about rolling resistance, grip.
Yes.
You're going to have a lot less grip if your tyre can't squidge down.
I think I remember years ago, before we got into all this properly, I was doing a similar thing, and you go into a corner and the front end just doesn't hook up at all when you skate across the road, which isn't fun.
Nice.
So,
what do we got next?
So we have got Simon Wood, thriller writer. Hi gents, I'm 5'4" and ride a Tarmac SL6 54 bought second hand. A bigger bike that I'd normally ride, but availability of smaller bikes is appalling since COVID. Had a crash replacement bike on order for a year, gave up and bought the SL6. Oddly, the reach on a 54 is pretty much the same as the 52. The bike has an 80mm stem, but I'm considering putting a 0 offset seat post to shorten the reach. Do you foresee any issues with the 0mm seat post, with the balance, with my weight forward on the bike, and your position with your legs being close to the bottom bracket?
So the thing is with this is, this is an impossible, as much as we'd like to answer this question, it's an impossible question to answer, because we'd need to completely assess your fit, and we're making assumptions here that your current fit is absolutely spot on. And so, we can't. However, what I can do is point you in the direction of something that I think can help. So something that I've recently used that I was really impressed with is an app called My VeloFit.
Yes.
So there's a few different ones now. There's a few different apps around that do a similar thing. This is the one that I've actually tried and used. So you can go onto their website, you can then record yourself. It gives you the steps. You record yourself riding on the phone, on your mobile phone, and then it motion captures you based on these videos you upload, and it assesses your fit. And I've actually, the degree with which they can do this is pretty impressive. Yeah. And I sort of played around with this thing and tried to trick it and deliberately put my saddle a couple of centimetres too low. It was like, having had bike fits, and it was like, your saddle is 2 centimetres too low. And I was like, okay.
Smart that.
So I think that, for someone at home trying to do, sort of inexpensive bike fit and check your position and get into the right ballpark, that's what I'd suggest.
Yeah, so just as a rule of thumb, where possible, I try not to adjust reach with your seat, because then you can start playing about with, where you sit versus your bottom bracket just a little bit too much.
Yeah.
And try the app.
Right. Next one is from Alan Harmon 5544. He says, training question. I need to be better on the hills to keep up with my mates. I know, to be fast on hills, train on hills. But I would like to be more scientific. Do I train FTP, VO2, go to the gym, do squats, or what? What would you suggest?
I would say get comfortable being uncomfortable. But how do we get to that point? Depends what sort of hill you're doing.
Well, I mean, hills is a very generic thing, isn't it? I mean, is it the Stelvio or is it like
Banner Down or
the Koppenberg? You know what I mean? Like there's 1 minute hills, there's like 2 hour long hills, and they require very different physiological strengths to be good at those things. Yeah. What I would say is, speaking from my own experience of being in the same position and wanting to be better on hills, so I don't get dropped by all of my friends, is a more holistic approach of just trying to improve yourself in every way that you can do. Yeah. So you think, well, how do I get better at this? Fundamentally, power to weight, and that that is something that you can work on by looking at your diet, but also trying to build some muscle and some power and doing specific workouts. But the main thing is specificity. So if you're assess the kind of hills that you want to be better at. And if, the type of riding that you're doing, say, with your friends where you're getting dropped is on, typically 5-minute climbs, then you need to be looking at 5-minute power and how you can improve that. In which case, those efforts, intervals of 5 minutes are what you need to be targeting. Yeah. So that's the other thing I would suggest.
Yeah, I think nail on the head there.
Next question.
Cool. So, at PRZMK, I know what SRAM claims, but what are your thoughts on disconnecting SRAM stealth imaging hose from hoods and reconnecting without cutting the brake line and installing new after replacing integrated headset bearings?
This is a you question.
That is a me question. So, what's gonna happen with that is every time you unthread that barb and olive, that olive is essentially every time you wind it in, it's going to get crushed down. So there's no harm in replacing it. I think in some cases, if it's in good condition, you might be all right. But particularly being brakes, I'd err on the side of caution. And for how much an olive and barb actually costs and how easy it is just to unthread it and thread a new one in, I'd put a new one in and then just maybe sort of top bleed the lever. You should be good.
That's a nice quick fix rather than having to do absolutely everything.
Yeah, instead of using the old olive and barb and then carry on riding and it's in the back of your head of, oh, is it going to fail at all? You're not going to have that. So, yeah, I'd replace it. Yeah.
Nice. Thanks. Right. Next question is from Guillermo Codivila.
Yeah.
Yep. Who says, I got an Orbea Orca Aero and recently made a bike fit. I discovered that I need a longer stem from 90 to 110. Oof. But I didn't find the same Orbea stem in my country. How may I look for a new stem or handlebar to perfectly fit the cable routing system into the frame? Because it on that bike, like many modern bikes, it's integrated. So I guess this applies to other people as well who maybe don't have an Orbea Orca Aero, but have an integrated bike and they need to change the stem or bars it came with.
So in this case, I know with Orbea, they have all their sort of blueprints for the bikes, white paper sort of accessible to the public. So you should be able to go on to Orbea's website. And then within that, they would normally specify if you want to go away from using an Orbea stem, to a sort of regular sort of two-piece stem. They'll have like adapters that go on to the top of your headset. Yep. So yeah, above the bearing, compression ring, and then essentially the spacer that will either adapt it for the integrated system they use or a sort of regular system. So yeah, it's a little bit of a deep dive, but it is accessible. So once you know what spec your bike is, yeah, dive into that, and then everything's got a part number. So yeah, get ordering.
I think the other thing you can do is increasingly we're seeing brands that make handlebars becoming wise to the fact that every bike is integrated and has a different kind of headset cap adapter for the integrated cables.
Yep.
And they're catering for that now. So examples I can instantly think of that I've seen, FSA Vision with a lot of and they offer this now with one-piece bar and stems, but also separate stems that you can put different bars onto. Yep. They do offer different caps to match different bikes, so that can all be nice and integrated. Black Tech as well, Taiwanese brand, they are offering this as well. So I would have a look at those options.
And sort of failing that as well, I know there are companies that they're third party, so they do like 3D print things for sometimes specific combinations, but I have seen it where, sort of specialist headset adapter to regular stem.
Yeah. So you'd be able to find sort of the 3D printed top cap bits.
Yeah. So there is an option.
Yeah. Nice. And the last question that is the last question. Oh, yeah. There we go. Let me know.
Job done.
Rattled through it. Right. Cheers, Adam. And thanks everyone for putting up with my life-threatening hay fever that I'm currently dealing with.
It's bad.
Yeah. Right, sorry for the sniffles. Gonna go now. Love you, bye.
See you.